And I was super frustrated not DJing, not doing anything with the degree I just had. So he said, hey, it's going pretty well right now, after a year. Why don't we start a record label? I want to start a record label, but I need you. I can find all the music and I can do artwork, but I need someone to kind of manage.
Jens has always been into electronic music. Perhaps not always, but for the majority of his life, he's actually been very, very engaged and involved in the scene of the electronic house music here in Denmark. He has had quite a journey with music. He's actually studied, I believe it's music management abroad in England and the US, and he actually finished his music management degree here in Denmark. We talk a little bit about that degree and what it's called and how you can study it here on this show. So the actual technical term of what the degree is called is in this show. So if you're interested in that, then consider continue listening. Having this degree has naturally led him to start his own record label together with a good friend of his, Pete Oak. The label is called Blindfold and was started a couple of years back. He's also part of the duo called Baime with Mikael from CBHD. And they are behind a lot of melodic techno tracks. One of them, and I think the most popular one, is called the Damned. It's a really, really great. It's a really, really great track. And if you haven't heard it yet, I definitely think you should go and check that one out. They've managed to, as the duo Baime, they've managed to play some really, really cool, proper bucket list gigs. They've played peak time at Watergate in Berlin, and they have also played a live set at Roskilde Festival. And there's a recording of that if you want to watch their live set at Roskilde Festival. You can find it on YouTube. I think it's just search for Baime live at Roskilde Festival. I think then they should show up. Of course we are talking about Baime and how Jens got into electronic music today and all that jazz, but for the most part the conversation actually was more about the behind the scenes of running a record label and how you start a record label and all that, and how you do A&R and what A&R is and how you spot new artists and new talent and how you get signed to labels and all that stuff. So it's a lot more business side, behind the scenes of running a label and being an artist. I think have to remind you to do this. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and like us on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, hit subscribe and write us a review over there. I would actually really know what you think of. I would love to know what you think of the show, as we can't get any better if we don't know what we or what you guys want to improve on. One of the things that you might want me to improve on is the fucking rambling. So, without further ado, a conversation with Jens Christian is coming up. You're listening to Nim Sounds Behind the Beat. My name is Kasper Stubb, and this is the show that aspires to inspire electronic musicians to create music, to do better marketing, and gain an overall better understanding of how the music industry works. We talk to people who influence the scene and try to gain an insight into how they work and how they have succeeded. Hopefully, by the end of this show, you will have learned a few tricks of the trade that you can implement to help you gain success in your music career. This is Behind the Beat by Nim Sound. My name is Kasper Stubb, and I bid you a very warm welcome. The first thing I want to ask you about is how you initially got into electronic music. Very classic question, but yeah, it's always nice to know.
Okay, great. I'm 36 years old at the moment. just to kind
of
just to kind of give a reference as to when I got into it. So that would be, I was listening to it in the mid 90s, so that's me 14 probably. Most of the first things I listened to would be The Prodigy. It's quite popular. Moby was quite popular, and then I think it kind of became all the nerdy stuff. Trance was quite big.
Yeah.
Trance moving into funky house in the start, noughties.
Yeah.
And then I kind of moved. It just came forever. So I just kept growing into liking even more genres within that area. Yeah.
Those are some very hard, or fast at least, genres compared to what you're producing now as Baime.
I think one of the things that I've heard people say, and I kind of believe it, is that the productions from the 90s or earlier are not as good as they are today.
Yeah.
So we have more equipment and software available at a cheaper price now, so we can do better productions than we could in the 90s. So hence music was a lot faster because you could kind of mask your mistakes by doing that. So if you try and slow down a 142 BPM trance track now to 126, not to go too far away, it'll sound terrible. Like the kick there's no punch in the kick, But now we can produce a lot better, and everyone has most of the stuff available to them. So it's easier. And you see even like slow genres are becoming popular, right? I have been for the last few years. Yeah.
All right. Well, just to backtrack. You are from Aalborg.
Yes.
Which is for people outside of Denmark, which is a city in
Jutland.
In Jutland. And
yes.
how many people live there?
Good question.
You don't know. Yeah, how big is the city?
100,000 maybe.
100,000. Yeah.
I'm guessing.
I'm guessing as well.
Let's just guess.
No fact checking. So you first got into electronic music back in Aalborg.
I've lived a lot of places, so Aalborg is one of the places I've lived. I would say my main passion was living in a little village with maybe 5,000 people in the entire village, including surrounding area, like rural area. So super small place. No one listened to it. This is the beginning of the internet when it became mainstream. You would go to the library. Napster's becoming popular, right? This is what we are talking about. So my only influence back then and option to listen to this kind of music is actually Viva, which is a German equivalent to MTV. And as Germany is a huge country for electronic music and was very early on having it as a mainstream thing, you could see the Love Parade, like they would live broadcast all weekend, for instance. That would be an example. Or they listen to a Happy Hardcore. You could hear Happy Hardcore or Gabba or have Carl Cox DJ on that network.
That's cool. That's a little while ago though. But
that's a long time ago, yeah.
So did you, when you first got into electronic music, did you know from the get-go, or like, I want to be a DJ and I want to produce music, or like?
Actually, my passion for that kind of music, I love all sorts of genres. It's not specific to electronic music. I'd say DJing, it's around the same time actually. So we're talking me being, 14, 15 years old again. But learning to DJ as you do in a small rural country with a mobile disco. So you would have to play any genre, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that's how I was taught to DJ.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For how many years did you do that?
I didn't do it that much, to be honest. Not commercially. I did it like a youth club, basically.
Okay.
So I would be part of it, and we could order CDs. We would kind of vote for what CDs should we get this month. People didn't have their own CDs at where we played. We kind of all came with our own, and then we had a big pile. They would have money for us.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
So I know that you actually got into, because it's sort of weird, because the way I got into electronic music here in Denmark, I was sitting outside of Roskilde in a small town there, and I thought I was the only one listening to house music and stuff like that. And then I actually found Brian Berg from Aalborg, and I really admired him at that point in time, and I was like, what? I had to, and I still like him, and I admire his work. So sorry about that. So I wrote him, and was like, "Hey, I'm sitting here, and blah blah blah," and like I felt very, isolated. He was like, "No, go to Culture Box and blah blah blah," and he introduced me to Runge and all of the other guys to their music, and it seems like there are two places where things are actually somewhat thriving in Denmark, and it's Copenhagen, and it's Aalborg. I think Aalborg has kind of like this cool, vibrant deep house scene and housey scene, or at least it had like a couple of years ago. I don't know how was it back then and like compared to now, you think?
I would say my relationship with DJing and DJing electronic music, when I really got into it, was probably 2002. I would go to Vesto, which is the number one club for electronic music back then.
Yeah.
At least house music.
Yeah.
So we're talking house music, deep house, soulful house, funky house. There's nothing called minimal yet.
No.
Techno still exists, but it was not something you could play in a. This was an upper class club, like people who had money, and we couldn't afford the drinks in there anyway. But we went because of the cool music, and Noir was the resident DJ back then, and he played funky house and R&B and disco.
Yeah.
But that's what got me into it, and that's what they were the champions, at least from my point of view, and all the people looking up to them were everyone you talk about now. So you talk about Runge, you talk about Kim Kornum, or you talk about Sivskov, or there's like a whole range of people producing different genres, but they have kind of managed to kind of stay together and help each other out. Right now, definitely, I would say it's deep house related or disco house or quite sample based, predominantly in Aalborg. But back then it was a lot more. Like we had Deadmau5 play for 100 people, because Noir had him on his label before he went full on EDM star, right? Yeah.
That's I've always found it kind of cool that it's been sort of divided like that. It's been rather odd. So there are two things I kind of want to talk about today. Or I have a ton of questions actually, so I highly doubt we'll get through them all, so you have to come back someday. But I want to talk about your project Baime, which is your artist name, and you are it's a duo, right?
Yes.
And it is pronounced Baime.
Yes.
Right. Not by me, Baime or Baime.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, no problem.
Yeah. Service announcement.
Yeah. Like, how did you start, like, this duo with Mikael? Like, how did you guys meet? How did you become a duo who's played at Roskilde Festival and Watergate?
Okay, yeah. Started out, actually, you have to step back a little bit before I met Mikael.
Yeah.
I moved to Copenhagen, 5-6 years ago? 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anyone in Copenhagen. But it didn't take me a year till I created a record label with my friend from Aalborg, who had become more and more popular. So he thought, I'd start a label. Who do I do it with? That would be me. So Pete Oak and me together created what's called Blindfold Recordings.
Yeah.
And Pete became popular in Copenhagen, and the record label kind of made it so that people in Copenhagen noticed who I was, because I was not a performing artist of anything, and I kind of I stopped DJing for a while.
Yeah.
So I met Mikael through the record label, and that's kind of what gave me the in to the Copenhagen scene, because I did something not everyone was doing. Not everyone has their own record label, so that kind of gave me a bump up and made it so that we could talk. And we hit it off super quick for meeting each other.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's that time of year, all clogged up and running noses and stuff. Yeah, sorry, continue.
We met at a Q&A for Kuls, actually, during Sonar in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
That one year they tried it. And he invited me in super quickly to join his parties. As you might have heard of, he's part of CBH Deep, which I'm also part of. So I was invited in and got to meet everyone in that area. And then we went, it didn't take long before we went into the studio actually. And he wanted feedback on music and whatnot. And that's kind of the beginning. And then we start going out every weekend. Because I'm single, he was single. We would party every week. And he was a full-time DJ then playing all sorts of music. And then I would kind of, oh, this is a boring gig. Can I DJ with you? Sure. And we would play together and he realized, okay, you're pretty decent as well. I'm not kidding. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Baime was a solo project to begin with, the name Baime. And then he released on my record label with Pete. He did a remix for us. And then we started just DJing together all the time. And he invited me in to become part of Baime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, January, it's 4 years then. Yeah. Since we officially decided we are called Baime, and that is our shared name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when I produce music, I find it kind of hard to compromise on ideas. How do you work together, like, constructively and not just, like...
It's changed over time.
Shit out of each other.
I think it's changed over time, and you definitely need to kill your darlings.
Yeah.
In some areas, but we each have our force in what we do together. Becomes a greater thing than if we were to work alone separately. At least at the stage we're at right now, and was earlier. So Mikael is more artistic, and I'm more probably the boring business side, if you can say that. So I'm all about marketing, management, figuring out the new strategy. How do we do this, or how do we work out that, or we should get a booking contract. How do we do that? How do we ensure we get our money? All the boring stuff, if you will.
If you will, yeah.
Yeah, and Mikael definitely does not have a problem with me handling
that
all by myself.
I could imagine. Yeah. But you've actually been like educated in like music management or something like that, right?
Yeah, I have a bachelor in music management from England and also from America in Miami, and a master's as well on top of that here from Copenhagen. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Well, then I kind of makes sense that that Mikael is not in charge of that. Yeah. Okay.
So you can say experience-wise, I have it from the school, and then I put it into practice with Baime as like, okay, if I can decide everything around what happens here, what happens then? So it was like a live practice test case, if you will. And the record label is the same. It's basically taking what I've learned in school and put it into practice.
Okay. So where did you go to school in England and US? Just for people out there perhaps like interested in doing that themselves.
In England, there's more than one, but the one I chose was the oldest one. So this one has been around since the start 90s, actually. Yeah. It's not something you can study anywhere, but it's basically a business and marketing degree in music, and it's a city called High Wycombe. Yeah.
Is it you pay for it yourself, or
yes? Because at least for a Dane, you have to pay to study. Back then, it was rather cheap. It was like £3,000 a year. Plus, you have to cover everything else. You would get SU with you, but like the grant from Denmark, but that's it. And then my exchange in Miami was an even swap, so I didn't pay because the Americans would send people to just outside London in High Wycombe as well.
So that was okay.
So I'd still pay the $3,000, and then I'll go to Miami, Florida. And the reason for choosing that, besides partying and the great weather, was the Winter Music Conference, which at the time and still is today one of the biggest music conferences with electronic music. Yeah. Besides ADE, Amsterdam Dance Event. Okay. So that's the reason it was perfect. It started in the semester I had chosen. That's where you could go to this conference and find all the best artists and all the best managers and all the best anything. So that was my choice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what degree do you have from Denmark?
In Denmark, it's called Management of Creative Business Processes from CBS. Okay. So it's a bit wider.
Bit wider, yeah. All right. That was like, getting the conversation off straight. But so you have worked together in a Baime for quite a long time. Like, are there any mistakes to avoid when you I assume you've throughout a friendship you like bump heads? I assume it's like kind of like a marriage or something like that.
We're definitely married. We're more married than me and him are more married than he is to his girlfriend. And people can hear that when we talk.
Yeah.
We bicker a little bit.
Yeah, every once in a while you do. But are there any, like, can you give me, like, I'm terrible at collaborating with people.
Yeah.
Like, in the studio. How do I become better?
Again, it's back to killing your darlings, I think. Because for me, I'm not in the studio every time he's producing music anymore. In the beginning, I was there quite a lot, but I work a lot. Both me and Mikael have a full-time job. We both do Baime, meaning we play out. He's part of Blindfold as well now. We also run a record label. We're also part of CBH Deep, producing, at least for me, I was doing radio once a month, one Saturday a month. And on top of that, we would also promote parties. So I never had a day off, so it became a bit much.
Yeah, that's a long time, man. Yeah.
But it was fun, but again, we kind of split it up so that he's more studio based now, and I'm more on the aspect of everything else. I'll still give him feedback on music, but the general direction he's going in right now, we're pretty much in agreement on all of it.
Yeah. I assume it becomes easier the longer you work together.
Yeah, we kind of figure out what is this person good at, what is that person good at.
And then divide the...
He's probably a little bit more unstructured in his approach to things, and he's more brave. He'll take more chances, not just in music production, but also in saying yes to things. And I'm probably more controlling, and I'll try to strategize and use a lot of time to make the perfect plan. So we kind of push each other in a good direction. We both bring something to the table.
Yeah. And I guess it becomes easier when you found a style for the Baime label, because I very much think you do have sort of a certain style to your tracks. How do you go about like finding a certain style? How have you just like, is it just spending hours or like
for the record label or for the
for the Baime?
For Baime?
Yeah.
I think it's just over time.
Yeah.
You kind of figure out what is, at least there's some elements that are quite popular.
Yeah.
And it happens over time. I don't think no one's static, but you kind of figure out, okay, I like it at least in this speed, and I like these keys, and I like using this type of, like when we released with Syncopat, there's 4 tracks were done the year before, and what was super hot that year was taking drums, like bongo drums, and like something that had different reverbs on, for instance, would make a fun impact on it, and that's quite unique, I would say.
Yeah.
That's one thing, or it could be super slow, because most of our tracks are not that fast actually. Even I would say a banger, and we're talking 118 BPM. It's quite slow compared to what's out there today.
Yeah, I remember at Roskilde you played like I think it was the last track you played. That was 118.
Yes.
Is that out yet?
Yes, came out in August.
It came out in August. Okay, that's good. That's good. One of the releases in August. We already spoke about it a little bit, but I kind of want to backtrack to that because I find that quite kind of an intriguing thing about you. The whole Blindfold label. I want to talk a little bit about that. You said you and Pete met in Aalborg, right? Yeah. Like, how did you guys meet back then?
Funny story.
Yeah.
In Aalborg, they were trying to do events and to showcase talent from Aalborg, bringing in both old and new. So they would bring in people who were super cool 10 years ago. They moved somewhere else. So they basically made an event called Fuck You, I'm from Aalborg. Only booking DJs who are from Aalborg or still live there.
Yeah.
And then matching them up to play back to back. So all night is back to back, 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. So it was Aalborg local residents that kind of came up with the concept, and it worked super well because you would get like 10 DJs in one night, and people would network across. And it would be all sorts of genres. There would be a dude doing drum and bass, there would be dubstep, it would be house, it would be techno, it would be everything. So it's kind of a weird mismatch, but they tried to kind of set it up so it became like a kind of streamlined evening. But then again, it was not. But yeah, me and Pete were kind of put together by the promoters, and they thought, okay, you might be a good match. And me as the big planner, I was super nervous, and I thought, what do? I need to figure out what he's playing. So I kind of booked him in to say, hey, can we maybe meet before we just turn up? Because it might be a bit weird because I don't know what you're playing. This is pre-SoundCloud almost. I know. And we kind of met, and it turned out super well. And then he knew I'd moved to Copenhagen, and he'd started producing and releasing new disco back then on Sleazy Deep, and he had his big breakthrough, and that did so that he would come and play in Copenhagen once in a while, and he would sleep on my couch. And I was super frustrated, not DJing, not doing anything with the degree I just had. I was starting to study again. Yeah. So he said, hey, it's going pretty well right now, after a year. Why don't we start a record label? I want to start a record label, but I need you. I can find all the music and I can do artwork, but I need someone to kind of manage everything else. Yeah, that was it.
And that's how you got started?
Yes.
Okay. You still live in Copenhagen?
I do.
You live in Copenhagen, I know that. Pete lives in Aalborg still?
Pete lives in Aalborg, yes.
Right. How do you go about managing a label together? When there's so much distance between you guys?
A lot of online communication. I would say Pete's not as involved as he used to be. Since Michael joined, Michael's kind of taken on the role as head A&R. A&R is artist and repertoire, so people who kind of find new talent and develop them.
Okay.
So, but we're all A&Rs, but he's primary on that, and then I'm on marketing and distribution and what all this stuff he doesn't want to do. Basically. But we had a meeting Monday on Skype, for instance, and then I would do an agenda in Google Docs, and that would be our agenda for the meeting, and then I would jog in notes, and then we would just take it on Skype an evening and say, let's talk for an hour and figure it out, and then we might have a follow-up meeting or give tasks to people, basically.
So who's the team behind Blindfold? How many people are you in Blindfold?
At the moment, we're 3 shared owners of this. So me and Pete started it, and Michael bought his way in after a few years. So he's a part owner as well. And then over time, we've outsourced different tasks. So for instance, we used to do our own graphic design to begin with. Pete was doing that, but he's too busy now, so he can't. So, and we found someone who's even better at it actually, which is Michael's girlfriend of 2 years. So the last 2 years, almost to the day, she's been doing all graphic design for us. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how do you go about starting a label?
That's a great question.
Yeah. I've written down here, how do you go about starting a label? What is a distributor? And what is an A&R? How/what is a great deal? And that means a distribution deal. How do you go about, because to me it would be a very daunting thing to do, starting a record label.
It depends kind of on your ambitions. Let's say what you're paying for today as an artist to a record label, the collaborations you do today is not the same as it used to be, because we've kind of moved away from physical mediums. So you're not buying CDs or cassette tapes that much anymore. Vinyls has a resurgence for sure, but it's not that common. Most labels now are primarily digital. Yeah. And that's what the record labels back in the day, that's the power they had, the power of distribution. That's what you would sign on for, because you couldn't distribute it yourself. It was impossible. 2, you pay for marketing. Marketing and connections, that's why you decide to collaborate with a record label.
Okay. But how do you actually start it? Like today, when you started Blindfold, how did you go about it? Like, how do you go about starting your very own label?
We researched. You can search online and say, how do I get my music on Spotify?
Yeah.
And there's kind of two ways. There's one where it's direct artist to platform via an aggregator. That's what they call them.
Yeah.
It could be a CD Baby or something similar. But for us, we kind of looked for who can we partner up with that's meant for record labels, so bulk. Instead of one release a year, maybe we're gonna do a lot more. So we were kind of looking at deals. What were all of them kind of giving us, and what would we prefer to get? So we kind of asked actually other artists that had record labels and said, who are you with, and do you like them, and what's good, what's bad? So we researched the market. One. Yeah. Two, we found out, okay, this guy we kind of trust. It seems like he's a pretty decent guy. We found a one person company, basically. Okay. And what he provided was he would handle contracts for us. I did do our own contract, but I gave them to him, and then he could kind of do like digital contract signing for me. We also outsourced to him. He's getting a higher cut than we would get without it, but he's handling royalty statements, for instance.
Yeah.
So I sent him expense sheets for each release and say, this is the amount of expenses we had. And then he'll sort it out for me. So he'll send every year, say, here's the statements for your artist. You can just email them out now.
Okay.
Which is probably today is one of the most annoying admin tasks you can get. And that's actually one of the reasons why we chose that distributor. That was the reason for it.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, good, bad deal, I'd say it's difficult to say because it depends on how big it is. Because some of them have direct deals and some of them don't. So it's kind of hard to say.
What would you think the most important thing is to focus on when you're starting a label? Is
having the right partners in place.
Yeah.
Getting the best possible team. Because you can say today our record label is a curator of music, at least in electronic music we work with. Most of them are boutique labels, meaning they're focused on quite a small niche. Can be the same sound or similar sound. You have to find someone who also likes that. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to kind of collaborate.
Yeah.
Two, you're a marketing company. You're going to want to create media stuff. So you're going to be making artwork. You're going to be making videos. You're going to be taking pictures. All this is content that needs to be created. You need to have someone who's able to do that. Otherwise, you'll be poor very quickly. So it won't be possible for you to actually be profitable unless you can find someone who can do it either dirt cheap, or you can find someone who will be part owner and do that work for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So you need the right skills, kind of. Yeah.
You need to assemble a team or find people to work with that.
Yeah. So one, you need an admin guy who's has basic knowledge of how do we make a contract? How do we do basic transactions? What do we do? How do we send invoices? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I learned that on the go. So, and that I think most people should just try and see what happens. I don't think it's not that difficult. You need someone to do media stuff for you. You need someone who can write press releases and write emails to people. Because if you want to promote something, most of it is primarily by networking, either via Facebook or email. So your network is quite important. So if you can find someone who already has a network that's super strong, that's very important too. Or artists have connections to other artists. So if you want to release music, starting out is super difficult because who wants to sign a track to a label that has no releases?
Yeah.
That's the most difficult part, actually. That is finding, one, music that you think is good enough, and two, artist is actually willing to release with you, even though they know you're a rookie.
Yeah, that gotta be hard. Like, how did you didn't really go about it with, like, because you had sort of Pete Oak.
We had a super good combo because he was big enough that he was touring around. He was playing all sorts of places at the time. It was quite hot. Like he played New York, for instance, and he played Cairo. Two of our artists the first year, one was from New York, one was from Cairo.
Okay.
Actually, two from Cairo.
Okay.
Yeah. So wherever he went, he would meet local DJs. And some of them would be fans of him and go up and say, hey, who are you? What's up? And then that's how we made the connection. And because of his brand, we utilized that as a way to start the label. So he was the face of the label. Maybe not so much today. We don't market it as such anymore, at least. No. But that was the spearhead for us, is saying, Pete is pretty cool. Follow him. This is his record label. So I was in the back. Like, I was not even mentioned. I was trying to kind of focus it on it being him.
Okay.
Yeah. Makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, sure. Like you talked a little bit about it, but what are some of the benefits of releasing on your own label and owning your own label?
Releasing on your own label, you have 100% creative freedom to do whatever you want, and you can spend as much money as you possibly have.
Throw money at it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So things don't have to be profitable if you do it yourself. Normally, a record label is set into the world to make money.
Yeah.
A lot of record labels don't make money.
But does record labels start that way? Doesn't record labels
They definitely have an idea that they're going to make money. But maybe they don't know how much money is in the business, or they chose in a niche that's too small, or... it's very difficult to say if you're going to make money or not, and you need to kind of figure it. Like, we need to figure out who's good at mastering. Like, what companies should we work with for this? Yeah. Are there any? We should make a mailing list. We need to send DJs some promos so we can get feedback. So we hope it'll market it so we can be played on the radio. There's all sorts of things you kind of need, right? Yeah.
True. Yeah. I mean, what would some of the downsides be to owning your own label compared to releasing on? Another label, what's the benefit of releasing on another label compared to on your own?
I would say Baime and Pete Oak don't primarily release. Well, actually, we do primarily release on our own label now, but we do release on other record labels as well. So either it can be kind of swapping deals. So, for instance, we might remix someone from a friend's label, and then they might return a favor. So some of it is actually swapping favors to make things work. So you can see who's good friends by who's remixing each other often.
Yeah.
Someone has a network usually. Otherwise, they don't happen unless you have money up front for a remix. And it's not that common, at least in the circles that we're in. But you don't have to pay any money by releasing on another label. You don't have to create artwork. You basically choose someone who has a really good network and a good brand value for you.
Yeah.
I would say we don't primarily look for who's going to make us the most money for our music. We look at who would be cool to collaborate with.
Yeah.
In terms of how is Baime going to look if we release on this record label? Will we look good? And will they have better reach? So we reach more people. We're a small group. We have not even 2,000 people on Facebook. But how do we ensure we reach a bigger market?
Yeah.
And that's by kind of figuring out, okay, which record labels would be like a cool collaboration. Or what same goes for nightclubs. Like, you would really want to play at that one, because if you say you played here, then that's a stamp that you're good enough, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of looking for all those stamps, and slowly but surely people will be talking about you. And it's a long process. I would say, if I have to give you one advice, both as a record label and as an artist, is persistency.
Yeah.
It takes a long time, a lot longer than you think it's going to take you. There's going to be so many times when you doubt yourself and think, okay, I'm going to give up.
Yeah.
But then you kind of power through and something happens. It's kind of like looking at a wall and figuring out, okay, I can't go any further. Maybe I should step back a bit and turn left or turn right, and then try and move forward again. It takes a long time to kind of do this, but you also have to kind of celebrate your victories, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out, when did I reach this? So at least for me, I made a huge bucket list.
You made a huge bucket list?
I have a huge bucket list of things I would consider being cool to do. And then putting them, like, what's at the top and what are the easy ones to do. So if you make like a huge list of things you really want to do, and how are you going to get there? So you could say, I really want to be number 1 on Beatport.
Yeah.
Like the main chart. How do I do that? Okay. What are the chances of getting that? That's probably one, I have to be really good at making music. 2, I have to be really good at marketing. 3, I have to find the right way to make that happen.
What's on the top of your bucket list, if I can ask? Do you remember that?
I did it primarily for the record label to begin with. I would say a lot of the things I had are already on the bucket list. So one would be first play on Radio 1, Pete Tong's radio show. It's the number one radio program in the world and has been for a very long time. One could be Essential Mix, being asked to do an Essential Mix or playing at the cool clubs. That's also
on the bucket list.
That's also on the bucket list. Or saying, okay, I quit my job. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making a living for. Okay. Cool. So owning a label, I assume you get sent a lot of promos.
Oh yes, both promos and demos. I would say demo-wise, we get a lot.
Yeah, I meant demos. Yeah.
I just checked today, and I think at the moment I have 1,000 unread.
Jeez.
How? And we're a small label, right? Still compared to some. Yeah.
So when you're looking, like, how do you apply to a label properly? Like, how do you, like, what are some of the things that you're looking at when you're opening an email and listening to a track? What are some of the, like, the stuff you're looking at?
You can say our record label is still part-time job. We do this after we get home from work.
Yeah.
So there's not endless amount of hours in the day. So one is listening to what comes in.
Yeah.
That could be one way. So probably a lot of the demos we get are, they'll have a subject and they'll have a SoundCloud link. But no greeting, no nothing. That's just it.
Really?
Yes. You would still, hi X, or you can see, hi, hey you. We know it's been sent BCC to maybe 50 emails. It's not specific. Like, they're just kind of shooting blanks. They're trying to figure out if someone will bite. And that's not the way to go. I would say the best way is to present you in a cool manner so people will want to collaborate with you. So get yourself in order. One thing is, how does your artist brand look like? Like, are you active on social media? Do you have a logo? Do you have press shots? Do you have a bio? Do you have all these things in order that are basics that people will look at?
Yeah.
Do you have a following? Are people actually looking at what you're doing? It could be, what are your ambitions? Like, we've signed stuff back in the day where the track was good, but the artist didn't really have ambitions to be a full-time anything. So the collaboration kind of stopped, because if we would prefer to work with people who have a passion for this big enough that it could be a long relationship. Everyone has the idea of saying our record label is a family, but some are, but a lot of them, or most of them, just say they are.
So, like, do you write that in the email? Hey, I want to make a living from this. Like, do you write it in the email? Or like,
no, but you can see it indirectly, I would say. But that would be a question later on. Or it could be a question later on. What do you want to accomplish? What are your hopes and dreams? What do you think? Because there's a lot of questions people don't ask themselves. And if they're young, they haven't thought out that far. Maybe just think it'd be cool to fly around on a jet, or I don't know. People are in this game for different reasons. Yeah. You know, we've been working for free for 5 or 6 years now, doing this pretty much. Right. We don't take money out. We put money in, and a lot of hours.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Nimsan project. I get the struggle,
but I'd say definitely get yourself in order and write a nice email. Figure out who's behind the record label and send specifically to some record label that you know has a sound that kind of reminds you of what you're producing.
Yeah,
that is going to be your family, hopefully.
Yeah, because there's no reason to see this every once in a while. I don't see it, but I hear about it. Like, that people sent, like, for a tech house label, for a techno label, they sent like Afro House or something like that.
Oh, it's even like we got a full disco album.
You did?
Yes.
Why the?
But our emails kind of enter into some sort of weird database, and then I don't know. We get a lot of weird stuff. I would say a lot of the music we get via email, like cold calling, if you can say that, people we don't know, it's very rare that we sign it. It's happened, but it's super rare that it works out. Usually it's someone who's in the environment already. Yeah. That we kind of get to know, or like for last year, I think we do this once a year mini compilation with 5 tracks on. Yeah. Some of the artists we find by asking some of the artists we already have signed and say, who do you know? Do you know anyone cool? Who do you think could bring us something? So it's network based often. So artists talk to artists, talk to artists.
But how do you like? Let's say like you really want to release on Blindfold.
Yes.
But you're sitting in Dublin or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you reach out to you guys and they don't know anyone that you know, perhaps? Like, how do you like reach out to you? Do you write an email first saying, "Hey, I really like what you're doing," or some like?
I'd say a lot of the stuff is not happening on email anymore. It's happening
on social media.
On social media, so people figure out who you are on Facebook. Everyone says yes to everyone on Facebook in hopes of them bringing you to the next level.
Yeah,
that's why I have close to 3,000 friends on Facebook.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why. But yeah, and then you just like reach out in the comment section of like a release or something like.
It could be commenting on releases. If you fit the profile of a record label, then you would probably start commenting on it and then eventually move on. Or you could just be, hey, we like what you're doing. Come with a compliment, say something, kind of introduce yourself, make yourself known.
Okay.
That would be a way. And then say, hey, it's not all the time like we have time to listen to people's demos, right? But they might just shoot it over on a messenger and say, hey, do you want to listen to this, or could you give me feedback, or what are you looking for? They could ask what kind of sounds are you looking for releasing at the moment, and kind of see if it fits. Show an interest. Research the record label you want to send music to.
Yeah, because I mean, that makes sense. Because if you get like 1,000 demos for a month, I mean, if you've interacted with the label on their Facebook or on their Twitter or something like that, they're gonna like your name is gonna somehow pop out, I think.
Yeah, that's at least for us. It's worked that way. It's the relationship, and the stuff as Baime that we've signed elsewhere. All of them are Facebook relations we've made beforehand, all booked. So Watergate was primarily based on us booking someone from Watergate record label to play in Copenhagen 3 years ago, the first time, but kind of like making ourselves known to that person, and then that would be our spearhead to get into the A&R, because if you're at Watergate, then you probably get 10,000 emails. So it's even more difficult to kind of figure out and go through the clutter. So a lot of it would be an A&R will have a network of artists they know, and again, it's the same thing. They'll ask, who do you know? Do you know anyone that's cool we should be checking out right now?
So when do you know that you're ready to release music as an artist on a label? Like, when do you know that, all right, I've been producing enough in my studio now I need to release tracks? Because I'm sitting with that struggle, right?
Yeah.
Like, when do you know that your track is ready, like your sound is there and stuff like that?
You kind of have to be brave, right?
Yeah.
Because usually there can be an inner demon telling you that you're not ready, the track's not finished yet, or you want to kind of keep polishing it.
I've heard about it, yeah.
Yes, and that's very common, and most people do this.
Yeah.
I would say it's at least figuring out if you can find a sparring partner or someone that you trust, their opinion, and then they have time to actually give you feedback on the music that you're making. Ask them, do you think I'm ready to send this to a record label?
Yeah.
That's a really good start, because you can't send it to your mom, because your mom's going to be, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
No, you have to send it to someone who is not going to tell you it's amazing. So Mikael sent his music to me to begin with, and I didn't say it was amazing. I gave him a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore. It's very, very rare now compared, right? But at least you need someone who can give you honest feedback, and you need to be able to hear it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can always find a record label to release something on, but if you want to look at some of the more serious ones, the quality has to be good enough. You can always find, you can even, like if you go on Beatport, you can find music that's out of key or not even mastered properly that's released on record labels. If you look like down in the very basement of Beatport's catalog.
Yeah, I found a few releases where I've been like, what? How the fuck did this get released?
Yes, everything can get released. That's the thing.
So that's not what matters. What matters is like,
I would say quality control, and try and you can also maybe start out sending it to people you like and admire, and ask them, hey, do you want this for free?
Yeah.
Get it mixed professionally. That's also a good. Let's say you don't have the perfect studio set up at home. If you're only starting out, then you don't have acoustics played for a lot of money, and you don't have the right speakers, and you don't need all this. You need, as an artist, you only need the idea and kind of finishing on that idea. Everything else you can buy. It's not too expensive to get someone to mix your music. It's not too expensive anymore to get it mastered yourself. No. And if you're not willing to spend that money, then you're not ready.
No, that's true. Yeah. And I mean, I think there's this sort of common misconception where at least when I first got started, and for a long time actually, I thought like I had to do everything myself. I had to like produce the music, I had to mix the music, I had to master the music.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, meh.
There's definitely credibility in it, and the scene is still, at least for electronic music, techno and house, it's still kind of frowned upon if someone else has produced it for you.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that's
if you haven't been involved in the process, you buy a full-on ghost producer to make tracks for you.
I mean, the idea still have to be yours, but if you get a track mixed and mastered by someone else, the idea is still yours. The track wouldn't be there the idea wouldn't be. Yeah,
I would say it's like mixing is still a creative task. There are decisions you make in the mix that can have an effect on how the end product is gonna be. But at least true, for me and Mikael, we decided that it's probably better we get someone to do it, because we can't actually hear that well in our studio.
Yeah.
At least when we started out, it's like, it's terrible sound in here. It didn't have acoustics, and we didn't have the gear yet. No. So let's just outsource that and focus on what's important for us.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Get them done, and then you have to be brave enough to kind of send it out, put it out into the world, and let people play it.
Yeah.
And maybe even play it yourself. If you have gigs as a DJ, then go out and play it out. Every chance you get, you're the only person who has this track. That's actually a very unique quality for producers who are also DJs. They can play it and they can test it before it's done. They can try it out and see, did it work? Did it not work?
Yeah. And that's true. That's true. It gives you a unique style when you're DJing.
The more unreleased tracks you have, and the more you play of that, that's a reason to book you.
Yeah. True.
Same goes for a live set. If you decide to go down that
road.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's a whole nother ordeal rather than.
But it's the only way to kind of be unique today is the network you have, meaning what promos do you get?
Yeah.
And what do you produce yourself that you haven't given away to anyone else yet? So the smaller circle, the more exclusive you are. And if the music that you get and produce is good, you will have a value that's higher than everyone else, than a lot of other DJs at least, because anyone can learn to mix.
Yeah.
But not everyone, like back in the day, it would be vinyl. Like there's only 5 copies in Denmark of this vinyl. It's not infinite. It's finite. You have to go see this DJ, otherwise you'll never hear this track again.
That's true.
That's not the case anymore. Everything is available, and there's way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a flooded market. Yeah.
It's a flooded market, and it's hard to find good quality. So make it yourself.
True. Yeah, I guess. Actually, I think we've somehow managed. I didn't believe that this would ever happen. I always write too many questions.
Yeah.
But we're actually at the very end now, and as you may know, I like to ask some quick questions, and you have to answer them as quickly as you can.
I'll try.
You'll try? All right. So the first one is, what is your favorite plugin or gear at the moment?
I'd still say probably Saturn, the Saturator.
The Saturator. Oh.
It's a nice plugin that will, besides bringing saturation, you can do it based on an EQ. So you can decide the warmth has to be in the low bottom area, or when it's on the mid, and you can kind of mix it up. And it has super high qualities. It's definitely beefed up a lot of Baime tracks where a bass had sounded super boring before. Yeah.
Yeah, you and Mikael have been plugging and pitching me to get.
We don't get any money from.
No,
from
you just really love that product. Oh, okay.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next one is, what did you wish you knew back when you first got started in the music industry?
I would say the most important lesson I can give you now is be nice and go and meet people. Don't be afraid to say hello to people.
Yeah.
It's one thing is making music, the other is networking. Because a lot of for instance, how do you get DJ gigs if don't have any music? You need to know people, otherwise they'll never book you. 1, 2, if you don't know anyone who can teach you about certain things, you're gonna be too isolated. So doing collabs with someone you met off the internet is also a good thing, because you come from different backgrounds, probably use different things, so you learn from each other. So it's all about network. Go and say hi, go to the clubs, be brave, try and see if you can be part of a group or make your own crew. Yeah, that's it, I think.
Network.
Network. All right. You will not be able to make it alone. This is a joint effort.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice, actually. All right. The third question is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And this doesn't have to be music related. It's a tough one.
I think one of the things I wish I'd done, start early.
Start early.
Yes, and one of the things that I'm talking about here is regards to the record label. At least if you live in some countries, you get grants when you're studying, meaning that you don't have to work on the side, or you don't have to work that much, and you have a lot of spare time. Yeah. If you have an idea and something that doesn't cost too much money, you can work pretty much part-time at least on your dream. Why not start early on?
Yeah.
I started Blindfold, I think it was second, like almost finishing my master's. If I'd started as a bachelor, I could have used everything I did in my school, I would have used it as a case for what I was doing at the same time.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And I would have had, like, my problem today is actually I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I don't have enough time to do what I want to do now, because I need to provide, so I have to pay rent, I have to do all these things. And then money is not providing that at the moment, so I have to have a separate job, meaning I have to work a lot more than most people. And you have to be willing to make sacrifices. Start early. You have so much time before you are when you finish studying and you start working, you don't have that much time anymore. Start early and keep at it.
Yeah. That's nice advice.
Yeah,
because I wish I started Nim Sound a lot earlier as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's important to fail.
Yeah.
Fail fast, fail hard, and learn. Don't do the same mistake twice.
True. Boom.
Yeah.
I should get like a dummy mic in here and be like, so people can do like a mic drop, like boom.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Or like I should get like one of those Rode Procaster. Have you seen that? I think it's called. Like where you can have like air horns and shit. Like
yes, you can get it as an app for your phone.
Oh, you can? Mm-hmm. Of course you can. So for the people who want to hook up with you online, where can they find Baime?
They can find Baime and the Blindfold record label, both of them. If you just search BAIME, Baime, there's probably going to be a link anyways in the description of your favorite podcast service saying who's talking right now.
Yeah.
Blindfold Recordings, same thing. We're on all social medias. If you're local, hit me up on Facebook. Maybe I'll help you out. Maybe I won't. I don't give that much advice on tracks anymore, but if it's strategy related or you really want to talk about how do you go to the next level, I'm available to talk sometimes at least. So, yeah, and that's my full name. You would have to find me on Facebook. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure if you can Google it, you can find me, and then I might be able to help you.
All right. Well, we're gonna link to everything except your private profile on Facebook.
That's why I said try and Google it. Try and see if you can find me.
On that note, I think that's about it. Thank you for dropping by. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was a really cool and great conversation with Jens. I really learned a lot today, and if I ever manage to finish a track, I will definitely call Jens and get some advice on where to go now. If you have a question for Jens and you need some advice, for your music career, I definitely think you should hit him up on Facebook. He's a proper nice guy, and he will definitely help you out. So yeah, try to see if you can find him on Facebook. It will definitely be worth your while. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, or wherever you're listening from. And thank you if you've been watching this on YouTube. And it goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. It is really, really appreciated, and we love the support that you are providing for this show. Yeah, my name is Kasper Stubb, and I just want to tell you to keep at it and stay passionate. I will see you when I see you. Bye.